Okay, we've got the washer and circlip removed off our gear change shaft. I'll just give it a little push through. It's just come out of mesh here, and they always get a bit tight just as they're coming through the cases at that point there. So I'm going to get my plastic hammer on that, but then it just pulls out. Okay, I've removed the square key, the drive key from here, and just took off the cam chain sprocket and just threaded the cam chain through and took it out. Now if you're ever going to use the chain again, this side facing me is what was facing me. You know, you wouldn't want it to go the other way around and run it the other way. It needs to be run again in the direction it was running. So but this is having a new one in anyway. So anyway, right, okay, what we've got to do now, let me think. So I think the next thing is I'm just going to get this shaft out, as I said, here, and then bit of tool up, wipe up again, bag up our clips and stuff so you don't get anything gets lost, and it's time to undo all the Allen bolts on the cases. Okay, so I've had a bit of a mop up because, as I've said before, you can drain the oil out and there's always bits left in little pockets here and there. So yeah, all I've done since the last clip is I've just undone the crankcase bolts and literally just tapped it with the plastic hammer, and said plastic hammer, and case has just come apart. Okay, so what we get then is a bit of a, what we've got to do next is, well, these pins drop into corresponding holes that hold basically the pin holds the forks in mesh with the scrolls in the selector drum. Okay, so the shims, etc., as you can see on everything as it's come apart. So all we're going to do is pull the pins up, move them away, so the pins on the selector forks move away from the selector drum. So pull that pin up, slide them away, and this drum then, even though it's on the detent, as you just heard it click, I forgot to take that out yet, it doesn't matter, which was just sat on that little notch there, which is the neutral notch. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put that there for the minute. Make sure there isn't generally any shims or anything on there. There's the detent, just spring-loaded detent there. So what we can now do is, in the area that the selector drum was, we can swing that way, slide the forks off the shaft, keeping them in the orientation that they everything's that way. This is just kind of the way I do it, if you see what I mean. So I'm going to swing this back that way, slide them out, there they are, and everything's that way. Okay, so now we're left with our two shafts. Because the selector forks are out, they won't rotate because they're trying to rotate and mesh up differently and wrongly. And interestingly, on all of them I've seen there's a really thin shim on this input shaft. So being careful not to lose that. I can't do this two-handed from here. It's going to have to be, I'm going to have to tip it up slightly, and then basically all I'm going to do is just push this shaft through the output shaft through the seal, and it just comes as a cluster in your hand. It just physically comes out. There's nothing, well, I mean, you can lose like I say, this little really thin shim here that they all seem to have got if you're not careful. But all I'm going to do is I'm just going to tip it up and then tap the crank out this case. So on a final look, just on this bit, you can see it's had engine oil in this that's actually quite old, the way it's sort of stained everything inside. We may or may not get a lot of that off. It really doesn't matter that much. It's going to get clean, don't get me wrong, but we see the oil pump in an original format now. When I say original format, the few engines that I've recently done have been the wet sumped engines, where they actually run the oil and keep the oil in the engine, and this is all modified here. So back to an original setup, what we've got is this hole here. When the other case is on, the oil supply is fed from that pipe all the way through this case, through, and it's fed into the, you can see the shape of the housing there, the oil pump, and that's fed directly to the engine's oil pump. When I say that, that means for the working parts oil pump. And in the modified ones, what we do, we get the scavenge side, which is in here, to feed into here, and that's what they generally do. There's no ring there. So sorry, it's that one that's the not that one, sorry, that's the part of the scavenge back that sprays over the gears. It's this where the oil pipe feeds through there into the back of the oil pump, and basically what the mod is they get the oil from the scavenge pump side here directly into here. So the scavenge pump feeds the engine's oil pump. What I've been doing is actually tapping that out and putting a banjo bolt on there on that particular engine, because it's all been chopped away in here. All this section here has been chopped away and removed on the wet sumped engines. So as they've come to me. So what we've done is, instead of it bleeding a lot of oil out of here and not sending that much to the working oil pump, we've blocked this hole off quite a bit. Again, it sounds complicated now. I'm probably complicating it more than I should. That's on the other engines, the flat track engines. If you have a look at that, and you'll see the differences. We will be looking into this oil pump shortly, but at the minute it's just basically my mission at the minute is just to get this crank out so I can get the crank away for rebuild. Yeah, there's quite a bit of play in there. We can actually see, I don't know if this camera's going to pick it up from this angle. I'll do it when the crank's out and actually see the wear and the little end eye. So we're going to sign it off for this bit and get the gearbox as a cluster completely out, check it for, you know, teeth and the dogs and that sort of thing, get the crank out, get it packaged up, and we'll be ready to go. So there we are. We have gearbox just laid out for the minute, ready to go, parts washed, and check each tooth, etc. The bronze bushings underneath each gear, check for play, that sort of thing. Just give it a good old once over. The gearbox, it definitely wants the O-ring under the spacer on the end there. It just slides directly over it. That's where we've been leaking some of the oil from. So there's that side of it. Just looking at this case, interestingly, we can see that. So the cam chain's actually been rattling into the cases. We see that again there. There's my torch there. Just 2 seconds. Let's have a look. Just throw a little bit of light on this. Yeah, as you can see there, I'll turn that back on. As we can see there, been chewing into the case there and chewing into the case there. So bearings feel okay, but they are noisy, a bit noisy. You know, when it's in here, when you're this far in, it's false economy not to. As I said, we're going to look at the pump, assess the workings of the pump. So there's the case. Just for clarification on a part of the oil circuit, when I say the pump that feeds the engine bearings, that's the output to it. So in the clutch cover, it just, when the clutch cover's on, it just comes across into here, into the oil filter area, goes through the oil filter and into the centre section. And as you can see, we've been drilled down there. See the screwdriver through there. Been drilled down there. So as clean filtered oil is then gone through the filter into the centre, into there, it then goes up through here, through the banjo bolt and up to the rocker shafts, and also into this little chamber here, that again the cover, when the cover's on, forms part of the oil way. So as we look at that, we can see most of the pumped filtered oil is sent this way. There's a, like I say, the pipe up to the rocker shafts and the valve gear, but most of it is coming in here, as we can see here, and all it does is go through the cover and into the end of the crank. So talking about the crank, I'm just taking the old crank seal out there. So, and that's essentially where it goes, straight in the end of there. So it goes through the end of there, and there's drillings in it that come and feed the big end. Now if there's not enough in there, he don't get fed. This big end don't get fed. If you don't get enough going through here, that doesn't get fed. And interestingly again, I was going to say the clutch cover, but it's just relating to this seal. I've often seen the seal been installed in the clutch cover the wrong way around. Remember, if we've got pressure into this side, the seal wants to be as if that's outside, and the lip seal with the garter spring on wants to be in this side here, so the oil pressure is actually pressurising the seal onto the end here. I've often seen that seal in the cases in the wrong way around, in the cover in the wrong way around. Anyway, there we go. We can see the bit that's been chopped out here. That section there is this post is chopped out of the wet sumped engines. It's just completely removed. And that's where the scavenge side goes back, but it pressurises this little on its way back, the scavenge pump, it sends oil into here, but it also sends it through those little jets there as well to actually jet onto the gears. So Yamaha thought just that amount of a little jet onto the gears, and then the remainder goes into this and through the shaft here and out under the gears. Okay, splash feed around that bearing, and that's essentially it. So what happens is when they've wet sumped it, they've removed that, and yes, the hole on the other side that's just bleeding most of it out does dump all over the gearbox. Is it too much perhaps? I'm not sure, I don't know, there's no definitive answer to that, but all we've done is we've reduced that flow and put a banjo bolt on, and we've basically, by fitting the banjo, we've tried to divert some of it to just spray on under the cylinder liner, just to help a little bit for a bit more lubricant over, underneath, so it's circulating that way. It's basically it's circulating that way. So is it a move in the right direction from Yamaha? Who knows? For me, it's just a matter of what the application's for. If you can do away with the oil tank, I get the idea, but does it carry enough oil in here? I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not forming a, I don't have my own opinion on it, but it's not for on here. So there we go. That's it pretty much. Next stage, get this bearing off this side of the crank, get the crank away. Can we see in the end of this? Can we see in the end of there now? I'm not sure if it's better or worse with that torch there, but we'll pick the wear up in the little end eye anyway. So right, let's clear up and mop up. There's always a bit of oil, as we say. Let's get it mopped up, bagged up, cleaned up and boxed up, ready for sending away. Okay, thanks for watching it, and we'll I think this one's only going to be picked up really when we get everything back. So so there we have it. Okay.